It happened, didn't it? You saw the photo. Maybe a mutual friend mentioned it. Or maybe you allowed yourself that one forbidden glance at their social media. And there it was. The proof that your worst nightmare has come true. They are with someone else. And not just with someone else. They look happy. They look stable. They look changed. You see them doing the very things you begged them to do for years. You see them taking trips you planned but never took. You see them posting affectionate captions, using words they withheld from you, offering a level of public commitment that they treated like a death sentence when you were together. And your stomach drops. The blood drains from your face. Your heart starts hammering against your ribs, triggering a primal panic response, a full-scale amygdala hijack. And the voice in your head, that cruel, relentless inner critic, starts screaming the conclusion you have been dreading the most. It was me. I was the problem. I wasn't enough. I was too much. Look at them. They are capable of love. They just weren't capable of loving me. Stop. Breathe. Let me stop you right there. Because what you are looking at is not reality. You are looking at a performance. You are looking at a curated, two-dimensional snapshot of a three-dimensional tragedy. You are witnessing the great deception. And the victim of this deception is not you. The victim is them today. We are going to perform a forensic autopsy on the avoidance choices. We are going to strip away the filter, ignore the smiling photos, and look directly into the neuroscience of their brain to answer the question that haunts you. Who do they actually end up with? If you think they found the one, if you think they found someone better, someone worth changing for, then you are fundamentally misunderstanding the wiring of the avoidant mind. You are projecting your own capacity for growth, your own desire for deep connection, onto a nervous system that perceives deep connection as a threat to survival. The brutal truth. The truth that they will never tell you. And perhaps the truth they don't even admit to themselves is this. The avoidant does not end up with the person they love the most. They do not end up with the person who challenges them, who sees their soul, who ignites their passion. No, They end up with the person who lets them sleep. They end up with the person who requires the least amount of emotional labor. They end up with the path of least resistance. They do not choose intimacy, they choose safety. And in the world of the dismissive avoidant, safety looks very different from what you and I would call love. Safety, to them, looks like distance. It looks like superficiality. It looks like a relationship where they can hide in plain sight. You are mourning a loss, but they are constructing a fortress. You are heartbroken because you lost a deep connection. They are relieved, because they have found a way to turn off the noise. Or, in this deep dive, we are going to look at the specific archetypes of people the avoidant gravitates toward. We are going to explain, using attachment theory and neurobiology, why they seem to marry the opposite of you. And by the end of this audio, you will not feel envy. You will not feel jealous. You will feel a profound, chilling sense of pity, because you will realize that while you are walking through the fire of healing, they have simply chosen a more comfortable coffin. Let's begin the dissection. So, who is this new person? Who is this mysterious individual who managed to lock down the person who ran away from you? Often, if you are honest with yourself, you might look at them and feel confused. Maybe they seem a bit plain. Maybe they seem less ambitious than you, less emotional, and less wedded alive. Or perhaps they are perfectly nice, perfectly adequate, but they lack that spark, that intensity, that electric current that flowed between you and the avoidant. No, you wonder, is that what they wanted? Boring? The answer, neurobiologically speaking, is yes. So, in the study of attachment, We call this partner the placeholder. To understand why the avoidant chooses the placeholder, you have to understand the operating system of the avoidant's brain, and specifically, the amygdala. The amygdala is the brain's threat detection center, for a person with a secure attachment style. Intimacy is perceived as a reward. It releases oxytocin and dopamine. It feels like home. But for the dismissive avoidant, true intimacy is perceived as a threat. When the person who loved them deeply, just tried to get close, tried to ask for needs to be met, tried to merge your life with theirs. Their amygdala sounded an alarm, danger, enmeshment, and a loss of self, suffocation. Being with you felt like standing in the middle of a burning building. It was intense. It was passionate. But it was biologically overwhelming. Their nervous system was constantly in a state of hyperarousal, or constantly fighting the urge to run. Enter the placeholder. The placeholder is the safe bet. This is a person who, consciously or unconsciously, does not trigger the avoidance fear of enmeshment. Why? Because the placeholder usually demands less. They might have an avoidance style themselves, or they might be low conflict, or perhaps they simply love the avoidant less than you did. There is a cruel irony in the neuroscience here. The avoidant feels peace with this new person not because the connection is deeper, but because the connection is shallower. When they are with the placeholder, their amygdala is quiet. Their nervous system is not flooded with cortisol. They can breathe, and because they lack emotional literacy, they misinterpret this lack of anxiety as compatibility. They tell themselves, "See, it was my ex who was the problem. With this new person, it's easy. We never fight. I don't feel suffocated." They mistake numbness for happiness. They mistake absence of conflict for presence of love. The placeholder serves a very specific function in the avoidant's life. They are a human shield. They are a shield against loneliness. Because humans are social creatures and even avoidants need proximity. But they are also a shield against intimacy. By occupying the space of a partner, the placeholder prevents anyone else from getting close. They fill the role. They check the box. Relationship taken. Or this allows the avoidant to show up in society as a normal, functioning adult, just without ever having to actually be vulnerable. They can play house, intimacy. They can go to dinners. They can post the photos. But the neural pathways for deep bonding remain dormant. It is a transaction. The avoidant trades passion for peace. They trade the risk of being hurt for the certainty of being bored. And this is where the tragedy deepens. Because the human brain craves stimulation, the avoidant will eventually start to feel the deadness of this arrangement. But they will stay. They will stay for years. They will stay because the placeholder allows them to maintain their supreme defense mechanism. Autonomy with you, they had to negotiate. With the placeholder, they can dictate, or they can simply coexist in parallel lines. Never touching, never merging, just two roommates drifting through life. Safe, secure, and completely asleep. They didn't choose someone better than you. They chosen someone who allows them to remain unchanged. They chose a mirror that doesn't show them their flaws. But there is another scenario. A darker scenario. Sometimes the avoidant doesn't choose the boring, safe placeholder. Sometimes they walk straight into the jaws of a predator. So they end up with the narcissist. To the outside observer, this makes no sense. You might think, wait, my avoidant ex hated it when I asked for basic affection. They hated emotional demands. Why would they choose a narcissist? The most demanding, self-absorbed creature on earth. The answer lies in the mechanics of the dance. The narcissist and the avoidant fit together like a lock and a key, designed in hell. So, here is the neuroscience of the trap. So, in the beginning, the narcissist provides the ultimate drug, no love bombing. So, for the dismissive avoidant, who secretly struggles with deep-seated feelings of defectiveness and low self-worth, the narcissist's praise is intoxicating, or the narcissist puts them on a pedestal. But here is the crucial distinction. The narcissist does not demand intimacy. They demand admiration. There is a massive difference. When you wanted intimacy, you wanted to know them. You wanted to see their fears, their childhood wounds, their soft spots. That terrified them. That felt like an invasion. The narcissist doesn't want to know them. The narcissist only wants to talk about themselves. And strangely, the avoidant finds this relaxing. Think about it. If the partner is doing all the talking, if the partner is obsessed with their own image, their own career, their own drama, then the focus is off the avoidant. The avoidant can hide in the shadow of the narcissist's giant ego. They don't have to share their feelings. Because the narcissist doesn't care about their feelings anyway. So, it feels like a perfect match initially, The narcissist needs an audience. The avoidant is a quiet observer. The narcissist needs to control the narrative. The avoidant is happy to let someone else take the wheel, as long as they don't have to be vulnerable, But this dynamic soon turns into a prison. The narcissist is an energy vampire. They will drain every ounce of life from the avoidant. But the avoidant is uniquely built to endure this. Remember, the avoidant superpower is deactivation, and they know how to shut down, they know how to go numb, and then when the narcissist rages, the avoidant dissociates. When the narcissist criticizes, the avoidant withdraws into their cave. In a healthy relationship, and the partner would leave. But the avoidant stays. Why? Because this toxicity feels familiar, or neurobiologically. This replicates the environment of their childhood. Most avoidants grew up with a parent who was either neglectful or intrusive, a parent whose needs consumed the room. Being an object, being an extension of someone else. OCD feels like home to their nervous system. They trade your emotional intimacy, which scares them, for the narcissist's transactional control, which they understand. And the tragedy is, they will often fight harder for this relationship than they ever fought for you. Because the narcissist keeps them in a state of intermittent reinforcement. The highs are high, the lows are low. This creates a trauma bond. A biochemical addiction that is far harder to break than a healthy attachment. So, when you see them with someone who seems flashy, dominant, perhaps more successful or shiny than you, do not be fooled. You are watching a person being slowly consumed. You are watching an avoidant who has traded the chance to be loved for the permission to be invisible. They are not being cherished. They are being used. And sadly, for the dismissive avoidant, being useful feels safer than being known. Now, let's look at a different kind of choice. A choice that is perhaps the most confusing of all for the anxious attacher to witness. You see them enter a relationship, but the person isn't there, and maybe it is a long-distance relationship. They are dating someone who lives in a different state, a different country, a different time zone. Or perhaps they are dating someone who is legally or emotionally unavailable, someone who is married, someone who is still entangled with an ex, or someone who is a workaholic, married to their career, working 80 hours a week. And you think, how can they sustain that? They told me they wanted connection, but now they are with someone they see once a month. Here is the secret. To the avoidant mind, distance is not an obstacle. Distance is a feature. But distance is not a bug in the system. It is the firewall that keeps the system running. We call this the ghost relationship. Why does the avoidant thrive here? Let's go back to the brain. When you were with them, your physical presence was a constant demand on their nervous system. You were there in the morning. You were there at night. Your eyes were watching them, and your energy was mingling with theirs. To a hypersensitive avoidant, this feels like being under a microscope. It leads to what we call chronic autonomic arousal. They feel hunted. But in a ghost relationship, the pressure valve is released. When the partner is 5,000 miles away, the avoidant gets to experience the best of both worlds. They get to say they are in a relationship. They get the status. They get the digital intimacy, the good morning texts, the FaceTime calls where they can control the angle, the lighting, and the duration. But the moment they feel overwhelmed,